Hey guys, so I had a problem that I needed to solve on my own MyListing project over at Influence WP, and I wanted to share it with you because I think you'll find it helpful. So the problem I ran across is let's go into a listing, and when we have these listings, let me pull up an extension here. If you're not familiar with this extension, I highly recommend it. It's a free extension, browser extension. It's called Headings Map. Turn that on. Let's go back over to the site and reload it. So now let me go ahead and pin that to my extensions bar there. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now when you click on that link for headings map, you're going to get a map of your headings, just like the name kind of sounds like, right? So we see that our H1 is the name of our listing. The H2 is the tagline, which is why I always preach, put your keywords try to put your keywords in your titles, try to put your keywords in different keywords in your tagline and that sort of thing. And then your H3, one of your H3s, I should say, is this first. The H3 in this particular case is injected by me or by the listing owner. So if we let's go to just like a MyListing demo. So if we run this same thing on the MyListing demo, we'll see that the H1 is the title of the post, the H2 is the tagline, and then there is no H3. That's because, again, on my particular project, the client was able to go in and put an H3 in here, which is fine. That's not a problem. So that's kind of what we want. So we've got for SEO, we've got the H1, the H2, and the H3. So that's brilliant. Okay. If you look over on the demo, the MyListing demo, you'll see you've got the H1, the H2. There is no H3. The H4 is wrong, and so on and so forth. So you've got a bit of a problem there. So what I wanted to solve was I wanted the listing owners to have the ability to put in an H3, to put in an H4 if they wanted. But I have preached for years that with MyListing websites that it's not the single listings that rank. It is the site itself that ranks, that draw people's attention into the individual listings. So I still stand by that. I will stand by that forever. So that's for that reason, you don't need to get super hung up on the fact that there's not a perfect H1 to H6 heading structure in MyListing. It's a complete waste of time, in my opinion. However, when there is styling that is attached to an H3, an H4, an H5, that's what I was trying to solve. So as you can see here on my site, an H3 gets a bigger heading. So it kind of stands out, right? So that, along with, I wanted people to be able to do that. That, along with the fact that I don't want people to this is the most important. I don't want listing owners to be able to choose an H1 and an H2, because then that's getting into the H3s and the H4s and the H5. That's, whatever. But you want the H1s and the H2s. Make sure that those are at a minimum, those are solid. Even if you're not trying to rank your listings, just you want those to be those H1s and H2s to be golden. Okay. So the issue is, when you look at a listing type, when you add the description field to your listing type, you have the options under type to choose text area and WP editor. And for the longest time, I would just tell clients, let's just use the text area. Then we just get around a lot of problems. Okay. But sometimes, people come back and they're like, well, I want my listing owners to be able to do some formatting. I want all these different reasons why. And it wasn't until I had my own MyListing project that I was like, okay, yeah, I was getting requests for that too. So that's fine. Okay. So now I err on the side of, depending on the project, yeah, I can see how the WP editor type would be more advantageous and desirable here. So I rolled with that with this project. I found that basic controls wasn't enough. Let me show you what I mean by basic controls. So here, let's go ahead and edit this listing. So when you edit this, these are going to light up, these icons right here. This is all going to light up to be enabled, in other words, when you are using the WP editor field. If I was to change this to just text, all of those icons will go away, and literally the only thing that you could put in is text. Now, with WP editor, you couldn't format it, in other words. But with the WP editor, you have different options. So by default, basic controls is there. Okay. But when you do basic controls, it's as the name sounds, you're limited in what you can do up here. And in some cases, it's not enough. Like you can bold text, italicize it, you can bullet a list, things like that, but you're limited. And I think it's even, you see this is called the kitchen sink icon. When you toggle that, the basic controls are even more limited than this, if I recall correctly. But you can test that out for yourself. All right. So I did want advanced controls there based on the feedback I was getting from my listing owners. However, I needed to hide some components from there. All right. So back over here, you'll notice that there is no link. There's no ability to add a link, which is super important because you don't want, if you're trying to, if you really want to focus on your single listings ranking, again, I don't do that, but if you really want to focus on your single listings ranking, one of the things you're going to want to do is pay close attention to the links. You don't want people to be able to put any and all different kinds of links into their description edit area of their listing, because that's going to completely screw everything up. It's going to, and it could have even worse adverse effects on your website, totally tanking your rankings and whatever else. Like it could lead people to nefarious websites that inject viruses. Like I highly recommend you do not allow links into this field. Okay. So what I do, that's one of the things I wanted to solve. So let's solve that first. So again, I come over here in my listing type and I set WP editor is the type of field, and I want advanced controls. And now we can just get out of this. Okay. So we've got it set up how we want. I go over to WP code box, into my CSS folder. However it is that you add code to your site, it doesn't really matter. I just prefer WP code box. And I come in here and we want to address what I call the add listing flow. So that's anything that pertains to adding a listing or editing a listing. That's where this CSS is going to conditionally apply, right? Okay, so we need to do a search in my CSS for the word editor. And here we go. So this is where I start defining how I style the text-based fields, specifically the editor in this case. So if we scroll down here we go. WP editor fields. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying with these two right here, okay, and I'll put this information in the description of this video. But what these two lines right here, these lines right here do, we are hiding the links icon. Okay, so if I was to quickly toggle this off and show you on the front end, I'm not going to do it, but it's those link icons in the text editor, they're gone. We don't want people to inject links. Okay, so the next thing that we are hiding, and this should be universal across all MyListing websites out there that are using the exact same setup I am, which means that, again, one more time, this has to be the exact same setup, and then we know it'll be the same. That in your listing, you have the description field, and you have it set up as WP editor and advanced controls. And then your menu items should be identical. They shouldn't change. Okay, so this CSS should work for everyone. All right, so the next thing we want to hide is right here. You see what it defaults to? Well, I shouldn't say it defaults to, but it kind of does in this case. When I click this drop down for the heading, H1 and H2 are gone. All right. That is done with this code right here. And I'll put all this in the description, but we're saying we're going to hide the second menu item and the third menu item from the dropdown. All right. So if we look at this again on the front end, me just pin my tabs here. We are showing the first one, and we are hiding the second and third, which means we're hiding heading 1 and heading 2. All right, I will actually show you this real quick. So if I just really quickly toggle off this entire CSS code snippet and refresh, you're going to see that the link icon appears as well as headings H1 and H2. I mean, it also doesn't have my styling, but here you see it right here. Here's the link icon. We want to remove that, which we've done. And then under the dropdown, we've removed heading 1 and heading 2. So now people can't add those nefarious links. They can't screw up the H1 heading and H2 heading structure. They can add H3s, H4s, and H5 if they want. All good. So I'm going to go turn this back on before I forget. To refresh. H2 and H1 and H2 is gone, and the link icon is gone. All right, that is it. One more time, I'll put that code in the description area of the video. But yeah, hopefully this helps you guys. See you in the next video.